Hi, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day today. Have you ever had one of those conversations where halfway through you realize you're not even on having the same conversation anymore? Somehow you've both managed to make a perfectly normal discussion turn into a courtroom brawl. And we've all been there. So we understand that. But before we start, thank you to everyone returning. And if you're new here, welcome. This is where we take the differences between men and women, hold them up to the light, and say, okay, now what do we do with this? So, all right, let's talk about listening. Number one is the not heard around the world. You know the one, you're talking and he's nodding, but his eyes have that far away look like I'm at the hardware store. I mentioned this difference in previous episodes that men and women do not think the same way. So their perceptions are different from each other. And it's not that men don't listen. Men listen for key points while women talk for connection. So they have key points they're looking for. Women are looking for connection. And while you're listening, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button and tap that notification bell. YouTube doesn't put me out there unless you guys do this. So I appreciate all your help. And I hope that way, if you have that notification bell hit, you'll see when episode 5, which is the final one in this series, why do men have man caves? So women often tell a story to share the emotional side, how it felt, how it meant to them. And men, they listen to gather the facts, what happened, when, what needs to be fixed. So she's saying, I just felt invisible in that meeting today. And he's hearing, you had a bad meeting, you want advice. And before she can even finish, he's already halfway through the solution mode. So I don't know about you, but when someone you love is talking, do you listen to fix it or to feel it with them? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd be very interested to hear whether you're a fix it or a feeler. And because men and women think differently, here's the translation problem. Most women want empathy before answers. So that's a key thing. Women want empathy before answers. And most men, well, they want to be helpful. So they jump straight to the answers. We know what happens then. Women just don't want to be mansplained all the time. Which leads to number 2, the conversation drift. It's amazing how quickly a talk can go off the rails. Maybe it starts with, hey, we need to plan the weekend, and ends with, you never listen. What happened? Somewhere between planning and feelings, the focus drifted. And here's the truth about communication: emotion changes perception. When we feel unheard, we stop listening too. So it's not just that he didn't hear you, it's now you can't hear him either. One of the best things a couple can learn is the art of resetting men mid conversation. When things start spiraling, somebody needs to say, let's just pause. I want to make sure we're hearing each other right. That one sentence can save hours of silent treatment later. And it isn't about who's right. Couples need to take a breath and pause so they can stay connected to figure it out. This pause will give both the chance to think about what was said, how they could have possibly overreacted, or to create different thoughts and better compromises. Number 3 is when that argument turns ugly. Did you ever notice how in the middle of an argument we stop talking to our partner and start building our defense argument? We do it. Remember how we mentioned that men are not as detail oriented as women? Men can be like ducks, they argue, they flap their wings in the pond and then they swim away from each other. A few minutes later you'll see them all swimming together again. They just do it, get it over with, and move on. Women start building cases instead of building the bridges that are needed. Some will never give in until that man has settled with what they are saying. They will bring up every little thing that went wrong the last time the couples tried planning the weekend. The difference is men have already forgotten what happened. They moved on from that and they want to just start again. So keep that in mind when you're arguing. There's different perceptions on arguments because men will often shut down when they feel criticized, and that's how their stress response works. Women, on the other hand, well, they usually ramp up, talking faster, explaining more, trying to be understood. The problem is that both sides think the other one isn't trying. As we discussed earlier, he's thinking about the when and where and what needs to be fixed. She's thinking about the feeling, the excitement, how others will feel. The key is to work the action thoughts, which are his, and the feelings, which are hers, in harmony with each other. And here's a tip that works like magic: switching from "you never," as in "you never listen to me," to "I feel unheard." I feel like I'm not getting across what I'm trying to say. Men, when you hear that "I feel," pause before defending yourselves. Ask, what do you need from me right now? Do you want me to listen or to help you? Men, don't forget that women love to talk. So you're going to hear a lot about what they were trying to say before you can even figure out what it is they are trying to say. But listen to them, because this is how women communicate. And women, if you know you need to vent, let them know up front. "I just need to talk for a few minutes. No fixing." But women, you also have to remember that men still want to help. So there'll probably still be some fixing in there, but understand that's just his DNA. But those few words do prevent entire arguments from ever starting. So consider those. Number 4 is talking about the big stuff, money, planning, the future. Now, this is where communication really gets tested. Money, health, retirement, family plans, the what's next conversations that so many couples avoid till it actually just explodes right in front of them, and then they have to figure it out. For men, these talks can feel like pressure, sort of like, a pop quiz at school that you didn't study for. And women, they can feel neglect, like the future's being ignored, and they don't want that. The truth is, both sides, of course, usually care. They just handle the weight differently. So here's a structure that actually works: the 3C talk. The first one's courage. Pick a calm time, not an angry one. I mean, don't decide to do it when you're in the middle of an argument and say, "Now we need to talk about the future." It won't work. Clarity, one topic only. If you're going to talk about your health, then talk about that. If you're going to talk about, future retirement, then talk about that. No side issues, and no saying "and another thing." And C is for compassion, speak with care and not blame. It's so easy to blame someone else for what's going on around us sometimes, just because we don't want to take the blame. So this allows it to feel less like a meeting if you do it this way than and more like just a check in. Have a money night or a future talk once a month with a snack, a glass of wine, and a rule that no one storms off. If it starts to get heated, just pause and enjoy the silence for a few moments. You don't want talking about the future to feel heavy, making it your goal to have your plan feel just doable for now. You can always tweak it later. It does not have to be perfect the first talk out. And number 5 is the expectations. Most arguments don't come from what's said, they come from what's assumed. We assume the other person should know, and we've done that. We've all done that, male or female. We assume love means they'll automatically notice. They're not always going to automatically notice. We assume if they cared, they'd remember. And I know that we've all thought that way also. But people don't read minds. They're watching and reading patterns. So if you want something, you have to say it clearly. And if you appreciate something, say that too. That's always nice to hear. If you stay silent, your partner may never know why you're upset or what it is you need. In silence, sometimes it may seem safer at the moment, but if you speak up, it will remove any of those assumptions. And for men, women aren't asking for perfection. We all know this. We just want participation. For women, men aren't ignoring you. They're trying to protect you from the stress they feel when they don't have the answer. Men need time to think about things. So meet in the middle. One asks, one explains, both listen. And number 6, tips for real communication. So let's get to the practical part of this. For women, shorten the emotional distance. Instead of saying, you don't care, say, I miss feeling connected. Give him space. He needs space to process before you get a full reply back from him. Sometimes silence isn't meant to avoid you. A man just needs time to think. And choose your timing wisely. Emotional talks don't belong in the doorway, mid text, or right before sleep. So keep that in the back of your mind when you really want to talk to someone. Don't just stand in the doorway and start it. Choose your timing wisely. For men, don't listen for solutions. Listen for meaning. We want you to hear the meaning of what is being said. When in doubt, repeat what you heard. So, you're saying you felt left out when that happened? That one sentence disarms frustration faster than any apology. And then both of the couples, eye contact is gold. Put down the phone and pay attention to each other. Every argument with one sentence that begins, end every argument with one sentence that ends with I still, like I still love you. I still believe in you. This reminds you that the fight isn't the end of you as a couple, because arguments will happen. In my closing thoughts, so do men really listen? We are now aware that men think differently. They hear us with actions. When both stop waiting to win the argument and start listening to really understand the heart behind the words, love feels safe again. Good communication about who is brave enough to stay, neutral in the middle of an argument. Forgo the dramatics, the sighs, the eye rolls, the shouting. when you're feeling frustrated. Feeling the need to be louder, faster, or more logical creates a misunderstanding, which leads to a power struggle. The best relationships are built when both are willing to keep coming back to the table, ready to start again. And remember, no one has to be right, and no one needs to win an argument. I mean, it just, it's not necessary. Your goal is for balance. And now, the next time on So Curious, we're going to explore the last episode in this series, episode 5. What about series? Why do men have man cave? And we're also going to talk about why women don't. So until the next one, bye.